Welcome, gentle dreamer, to the Sleepy Cloud, a peaceful place where stories drift like soft wind through your thoughts, guiding you to rest, to wonder, and to calm. Tonight, we'll journey deep into the quiet heart of the earth, where the past still sings in echoes, and the stones remember everything. The night was warm and heavy with silence. Only the whisper of wind moved through the valley as Mira made her way down the narrow path that led to the old hills. She carried a small lamp in her hand, its golden glow trembling against the dark stones. Her grandmother had told her many times about the place she was now seeking. A hidden cave where voices of the past could still be heard if one listened closely enough. The villagers called it the Singing Hollow. Few had ever gone there, and fewer still had returned. But Mira was not afraid. She had always felt something ancient inside her, a pull, a soft hum in her heart, as though a forgotten melody waited beneath her skin. That night, she followed it. When she reached the hill's base, she saw the entrance, a small crack in the rock, half covered by vines and earth. The lamp flickered, as if shy to enter, but Mira ducked low and stepped inside. The air changed, cool, still, and damp. Every sound became close and slow. Her own breath, the echo of her steps, the small hiss of the flame. Then she saw them. 3 figures painted upon the stone wall, their arms raised, their skirts flowing, their faces turned in joy. They looked alive in the lamplight, as if they were dancing still, their hair moving like waves, their feet barely touching the ground. Red and black lines swirled around them, symbols Mira could not read but somehow understood, marks of rhythm, of movement, of song. She stood there for a long while, feeling the hush of time pressing softly around her. It was then that she heard it, a faint humming, almost like a breath behind the rock. She held her lamp higher. The sound grew clearer, a low and steady tone, ancient but kind. It wasn't frightening. It felt more like a welcome. The dancers on the walls seemed to glow faintly in reply. Their painted hands shimmered, and for a moment, Mira thought she saw one move. Her heart skipped. She stepped back, almost dropping the lamp. But then she felt warmth rise from the stone beneath her feet, a gentle vibration, like a heartbeat. It was a song beneath the stone. Mira placed her hand on the wall. The rock pulsed softly under her palm, and in that instant she could hear laughter, light, distant, joyful laughter echoing from another time. Visions flickered in her mind. Women dancing around firelight, hands clapping, drums beating from hollowed stones, the rhythm of feet meeting earth in harmony. Mira closed her eyes. Her breathing slowed. The rhythm filled her chest until she could feel it in her own heartbeat. Then the humming stopped. The cave fell silent again. Only her lamp flickered, casting shadows that swayed across the wall. But Mira knew now that the silence wasn't empty. It was alive. She whispered softly to the painted women, "Who are you?" And from somewhere deep inside the stone, a whisper answered, not in words, but in warmth and music and memory. Mira smiled, tears in her eyes. She sat down on the cool ground and leaned against the rock, listening until sleep gently found her there. Outside, the stars turned slowly over the valley. The earth was quiet, but beneath it, the old songs continued to hum, waiting for someone who could hear them again. Mira woke slowly. The lamp beside her had burned low, leaving a small pool of golden wax. The cave around her was soft with half-light, faint and still, as though the morning had not yet found its way inside. For a moment, she could not remember where she was. Then she looked up and saw the painted dancers on the wall. Their flowing lines glowed gently in the dimness, and the memory of the night returned like a quiet wave. The song, the warmth, the whisper that had answered her. She rose to her knees and touched the rock again. It was cool now, calm, silent, just stone. But Mira knew what she had felt. Something ancient lived here, hidden but listening. She looked around. The cave stretched deeper, a long passage winding away into darkness. Fine red markings covered the walls. Waves, circles, spirals, all painted with the same careful hand. Each step Mira took echoed softly, like the slow beat of a drum. The deeper she went, the quieter everything became. Even her breathing seemed too loud. It felt as though she was walking not through rock, but through time. Then, faintly, she heard it again, that humming. It was lower now, steadier, like a gentle note held in the air. Mira stopped and listened. Her heart beat in rhythm with the sound. She followed it. Around a bend, the tunnel opened into a round chamber. There were carvings everywhere, people, animals, shapes of the moon and stars. In the center stood a tall stone pillar, cracked but graceful, and around it, tiny crystals shimmered like sleeping fireflies. The hum came from there, soft, rhythmic, calling. Mira stepped closer, and as she did, she noticed something unusual. Her own shadow was moving differently. While she stood still, her shadow seemed to sway gently, as if dancing to a silent beat. Her breath caught. The figures on the wall began to stir again, their colors brightening in the dimness. The air warmed, and then she heard voices. They were not clear words, but melodic sounds, a soft chorus of women singing in a language that felt older than memory. Mira didn't understand the words, but she understood their feeling, a story of joy, of harvest, of unity and peace. It was as if the earth itself was singing through them. She knelt down, closing her eyes. The voices grew clearer, swirling around her like wind. She saw flashes of lives long gone, hands shaping clay, weaving fabric, painting the very images she now looked upon. She saw laughter, dancing, and firelight. The voices were not ghosts, she realized. They were memories, living songs trapped in the stone, waiting to be heard. Mira whispered softly, "I hear you." The humming deepened, warm and strong. For a heartbeat, it felt as though something touched her mind,
Not frightening, but comforting, like being wrapped in the arms of something vast and kind. The air shimmered. A faint glow began to rise from the pillar's cracks. The light danced in soft waves, casting patterns across the walls that looked like ripples on water. And in that glow, she saw them. 3 shapes forming from dust and shimmer. The same 3 women from the painted wall. Their forms were delicate, almost made of light. They moved slowly, hands outstretched in greeting. One of them stepped closer, her expression calm and gentle. Her lips moved, but instead of sound, Mira felt her words inside her mind. Child of the new dawn, you have heard the song. The world above has forgotten, but you remember. I don't understand, she whispered. The figure smiled. You will. The song sleeps in many hearts, but few listen long enough to feel it. When the time comes, the stones will sing again, and the people will remember who they are. The glow around them began to fade, and the humming softened once more. The figures drifted back toward the pillar, their shapes dissolving into the golden cracks. And then all was still again. Mira sat there in silence. The cave seemed to sigh around her, as if relieved to have spoken. She touched her chest, feeling the rhythm of her own heartbeat, a steady echo of the song she had just heard. I'll remember, she whispered, and somewhere deep beneath the stone, a single note hummed in reply. The quiet returned, gentle and deep, but something inside Mira had changed. The cave no longer felt empty. It felt alive, as if the old song now lived in her too.
The cave was silent again. Only the faint crackle of Mira's small lamp touched the air. But inside her, the song still pulsed, a gentle rhythm that beat in time with her heart. It was as though she carried a small piece of the cave's music now, a secret flame that could not be seen but was always warm. She stood slowly, her fingers brushing the cold pillar one last time. The crystals around it shimmered faintly, like tiny eyes that had seen her and approved. The words of the figure, the stone woman made of light, echoed softly in her thoughts. When the time comes, the stones will sing again, and the people will remember who they are. But when would that time come, and why her? Mira began to walk deeper into the cave. The walls were narrowing now, twisting like a spiral shell. She followed the faint glow of crystals set into the rock, each one pulsing softly as though alive with slow light. The deeper she went, the warmer the air became. And then she noticed something new. The patterns on the walls were changing. They no longer showed dancers or waves, but suns, moons, and lines that looked like paths through stars. At the center of one wall, a small circle had been carved, and inside it, a shape that looked like an eye. When Mira lifted her lamp, the stone glowed faintly gold. It felt almost like the eye was looking back at her. She hesitated. Then she reached out and touched it. The cave filled with light, not bright or blinding, but soft and golden, like dawn breaking beneath the earth. Mira gasped and covered her eyes, but the light wasn't harsh. It was warm, alive, and full of quiet motion. When she looked again, the walls were gone. She was standing in an open field, a vast plain beneath a sky painted in deep amber and rose. The air smelled of wild herbs and rain. In the distance, a great fire burned, surrounded by people dancing in circles. Their laughter drifted through the air like wind chimes. Mira's heart leapt. They were the same dancers from the wall, their red skirts swaying, their hair shining with ribbons of gold. The music that filled the air was unlike anything she had ever heard, a blend of drums, hand claps, and voices weaving together in endless harmony. It felt alive. It felt like the heartbeat of the world. She moved closer, drawn by wonder. As she approached, one of the dancers noticed her and smiled. Her eyes glowed softly, like amber stones. "Welcome, child," she said, her voice a melody itself. "You have come through the song." Mira's lips parted. "The song brought me here. I heard it in the stone." The dancer nodded. "Yes, these stones remember us, our laughter, our voices, our stories. They hold what we cannot carry forever." "Who are you?" Mira asked softly. The woman turned to the firelight. "We are what remains of the first song. Long ago, when the world was young and the rivers still spoke, we sang to the earth so it would stay awake. We sang the wind into motion and taught the stars to rise." Her voice grew quieter, but the songs faded. The people forgot, and so we stayed in the stone, in the memory of light, waiting for a heart that could hear again. Mira's eyes shimmered. She understood now. The cave was not just a place, it was a memory, and she had walked into it. The dancer reached out her hand. "Would you dance with us, Mira of the New Dawn?" Mira hesitated, then smiled softly and took her hand. The warmth that flowed through her was like sunlight touching her soul. The music swelled. She began to move, slowly at first, then freely, her feet finding rhythm in the earth beneath her. She felt no fear, no weight, only joy, pure and bright, as though her spirit had always known this song. The others joined her, their movements creating a circle of light around the fire. As they danced, the stars above began to shimmer and shift, their paths tracing patterns that mirrored the carvings in the cave. It was all connected, the stars, the stones, the song, and her. Mira laughed, her voice blending with the others, and for a moment she felt herself dissolve into the rhythm. No longer a girl of the village, but a note in an endless melody. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light began to fade. The dancers slowed, their smiles soft and kind. "You will carry it," said the first dancer. "The song will live again, in your words, in your breath, in the hearts you touch." Mira blinked. The world of light began to dissolve, and the cave slowly returned, quiet, ancient, and filled with the faint sound of her own heartbeat. She was back by the glowing eye carved in the stone. Her hand was still resting on it, warm. The crystals around her pulsed once, softly, like the echo of a smile. Mira whispered to the dark, "I won't forget." The cave answered with one final hum, low and gentle, like the world breathing.
The air in the cave had changed. It was softer now, filled with a faint hum that Mira could almost mistake for breathing. She stood still, her fingers still resting on the warm stone eye. The world she had seen, the light, the dancers, the firelight, was gone, yet not gone. It lingered in her mind like the scent of rain after a storm. For a while, she simply listened. Her heart still carried the rhythm of the dance, and the song of the earth pulsed quietly inside her. Then, somewhere deeper in the darkness, a sound reached her. A single drop of water falling, followed by another and another, each drop creating a soft, ringing tone that echoed gently around the chamber. Mira lifted her lamp and began to follow the sound. The passage narrowed again, and soon she found herself walking through a long tunnel lined with shimmering walls. The stone glistened as though dusted with moonlight, and every footstep she took echoed back, not just once, but many times, as if the cave itself was whispering to her. At first, it frightened her a little. Then she realized something curious. Each echo was slightly different. Some were high and light, others low and soft, almost like the tones of a musical instrument. She stopped and whispered, "Hello?" The echoes bounced back, splitting into 3 faint voices. Hello, hello, hello. The last one was so gentle, it almost sounded like it was speaking of its own will. "Is someone there?" Mira asked. Again, the echoes returned, but this time, one of them didn't fade. It stayed, a faint, steady whisper, not a reflection of her voice, but something else entirely. "Yes," it said, barely a breath. "You have come." Mira's lamp flickered. Her heart jumped, but the voice was calm, ancient, slow, and kind. "Who are you?" Mira whispered. A glow began to form ahead, a dim silvery light that spread softly along the walls. When she stepped closer, she saw a figure standing in the center of a wide chamber. It was neither man nor woman, but something in between, a tall shape woven from mist and light, its eyes deep and still as water. "I am the keeper of echoes," it said, "the one who remembers what the world forgets." Mira bowed her head, instinctively respectful. "I've heard your song. The stone showed me your people, the dancers, the firelight." The keeper nodded. "Yes, you carry the memory of the first song. Few have heard it since the silence fell." "The silence?" Mira asked. The keeper turned slowly, its gaze drifting across the walls. Tiny ripples of light followed its movement, and Mira realized the entire chamber was filled with carvings, circles, spirals, waves, and eyes, the same symbols she had seen before, but older, deeper. When the world grew loud with greed, the songs faded. The people stopped listening to the heartbeat beneath their feet. The stones slept. The rivers stopped singing. Even the stars dimmed for a time. It looked back at her, but the song was not lost. It simply hid in the echo of mountains, in the whisper of waves, in the dreams of those who still listen. Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. "I want to remember. I want to keep it alive." The keeper's expression softened, its form glowing faintly brighter. "You already are, child, But to carry the song is not enough. You must share it. Mira frowned slightly. How can I share something I don't understand? The keeper smiled, a slow, patient smile, like the shifting of stars. Understanding is not needed, only heart. Sing what you feel. Move as the earth moves. Even silence, when filled with love, becomes a song. It lifted one translucent hand, and a small crystal floated gently toward Mira. It pulsed with soft light, and when she took it, she felt warmth travel through her fingers and into her heart. "This will guide you," said the keeper. "When the way grows dark, hold it close. It will remember the song for you." Mira looked down at the crystal, its glow reflecting in her wide eyes. It was as if a piece of the cave's heart now rested in her palm. "Thank you," she whispered. The keeper nodded once more. Then it began to fade, its form dissolving like mist in sunlight. Before vanishing completely, its voice echoed softly through the chamber. "When the world above forgets again, sing to the stones, and they will awaken." The silence that followed was peaceful. Mira stood there, holding the crystal close. Its glow shimmered in rhythm with her heartbeat. She felt no fear now, only purpose. Turning back toward the passage, she whispered to the darkness, "I'll carry your song, and I'll make sure it's heard again." As she walked, her footsteps no longer echoed the same way. Instead of scattering, they joined, forming a gentle rhythm, a steady beat, like the start of a melody being born.
The passage widened as Mira walked, her lamp flickering in the still air. In her hand, the crystal from the Keeper of Echoes glowed gently, a soft, steady light that never dimmed, even when her flame trembled. The air around her had changed again. It was cooler now, touched with the faint scent of moss and running water. Somewhere ahead, she heard it, a quiet, endless murmur. It was not quite a song, but it carried the same warmth as the hum that had led her this far. Mira followed. The walls glimmered faintly as she passed, their surfaces damp and alive with reflections. Now and then, she thought she saw faint shadows in the rock, not frightening, but gentle movements, as though the cave itself was watching her go. After a time, she reached a wide opening, and before her stretched a long underground river. It glowed. The water shimmered in shades of silver and blue, its rippling surface catching and bending light in ways that felt almost magical. Tiny flecks of light floated above it like drifting stars. Mira stood there in awe, feeling her breath slow and deepen. The river whispered softly, a voice too smooth to be words, yet Mira could somehow feel its meaning. "Welcome, little one. You carry the song." She knelt beside the water, and as she leaned closer, her reflection shimmered strangely. Not just her face, but the faint outline of the three dancers behind her. Their eyes glowed gently in the water's mirror. Mira smiled. "Are you still with me?" The water rippled in answer. A soft hum rose from its surface, and then, clear as a bell, she heard a voice within the sound. "The song travels, child. It flows like this river, sometimes seen, often hidden, but always moving." Mira's eyes glistened.
She reached out her fingers and touched the surface. It was warm, not cold as she expected. And when she did, she saw images ripple through the water. Villages, forests, mountains, and people standing in sunlight, their faces turned upward as if listening. "The world above," she whispered. "They've forgotten, haven't they?" The river replied, "They remember in dreams. When they rest, when they are quiet, our song finds them again." Mira thought about her grandmother, who used to hum to her by the fire at night. Soft little tunes that made her sleepy and safe. Maybe that too was part of the same song. She smiled, realizing how small and beautiful the connection was. The song wasn't just in ancient caves, it was everywhere. In lullabies, in wind through leaves, in hearts that still felt wonder. She walked along the riverbank, and after a while she noticed that the water grew brighter. It seemed to be guiding her, twisting gently toward a narrow tunnel filled with glowing mist. As she entered, the sound changed. The whisper became clearer. Not only the song of water, but voices within it. Soft, melodic voices weaving through each other like silver threads. They sang without words, yet Mira could feel their meaning deep within her. A promise, a remembering, a quiet hope. The crystal in her hand pulsed gently in time with the rhythm. Her steps slowed. She closed her eyes and listened. And then, the voices grew closer. The mist parted, and she found herself standing in a wide cavern filled with light. A waterfall pouring down from an unseen height, its spray glowing like moonlight. At its base stood a figure. Tall, robed in flowing blue, its hair like strands of water itself. Mira approached carefully. The figure turned and smiled. "I have been waiting," said the water keeper, its voice soft and deep as a stream. "The song has passed through stone, and now it must travel through water." Mira bowed her head. "I've come from the Keeper of Echoes. I've heard the first song." The water keeper nodded. "And you will carry it farther still." It reached into the waterfall, and when it withdrew its hand, a tiny droplet floated above its palm, shining with every color of the river. "This," the keeper said, "is the memory of flow, the part of the song that moves through time. It will help you bring the song to the world above. But remember, the louder the noise of the world, the fainter the song becomes. Only stillness can carry it." The droplet drifted forward and settled gently into Mira's crystal. The light within it deepened, blue and gold swirling together, pulsing like a heartbeat. Mira held it to her chest. The rhythm she felt was no longer just hers. It was the rhythm of rivers, rain, and the deep beating of the world. "Thank you," she whispered. The water keeper smiled faintly, its eyes shimmering like the surface of a lake at dawn. "Go now, child of song. Follow the light until it meets the wind." Mira turned, the path before her glowing softly with pale blue light. Behind her, the whisper of the river faded, but the song,
That endless, quiet song remained in her heart, steady and true.
The tunnel opened slowly, and Mira stepped out into a world of silver mist and soft air. The sound of the river faded behind her, and in its place a new sound rose. A low, gentle wind sighing through unseen trees. The crystal in her hand glowed faintly, its golden blue light steady and calm. She held it close as she walked. The air was warm now, smelling of rain and distant grass. And for the first time since entering the mountain, Mira saw the faintest hint of sunlight ahead, a thin line of brightness spilling through the rocks. Her heart lifted. The end of the cave, the world above. She moved faster, her breath soft and even. When she stepped out, the light wrapped around her like an embrace. She blinked, eyes adjusting. She was standing at the top of a high hill. The valley spread far below. The sky stretched endlessly, pale blue touched with pink clouds. Birds drifted quietly above her, and the air carried the faint hum of morning. For a moment she stood still, just breathing, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. It felt new. Everything did, as if she was seeing it for the very first time. She looked down at the crystal. It shimmered softly in her palm. Inside it, she could see tiny ripples of light, like reflections of the river, echoes of the cave's heartbeat, and hints of the dancer's glowing movements. "The song lives everywhere," she whispered. Smiling, the wind stirred. And then, softly, clearly, she heard it again. The hum, the same gentle note that had first called her into the cave. But now it was not coming from below. It came from the sky itself, from clouds, from trees, from the quiet movement of the air. The song had risen. Mira closed her eyes and lifted the crystal toward the light. The wind caught her hair and played with it like a friend. She felt warmth bloom in her chest, a light that seemed to grow and grow until she felt part of the world itself. She began to hum. It was soft at first, just a simple sound. But the hills answered. The breeze carried it farther, and soon the song was everywhere, weaving through leaves, skimming across streams, rising up into the open sky. The world listened. Birds quieted. The air shimmered faintly, and though Mira could not see them, the echoes within the stone smiled in their ancient rest, for the song had returned to the sky, as it was always meant to. When the final note faded, Mira sat down on the grass. The crystal was still glowing faintly, but she knew its work was done. She placed it gently on the ground. The earth accepted it, and within moments it sank softly into the soil once more. Mira lay back, looking up at the clouds. They drifted slowly, their edges glowing gold in the morning sun. She felt calm, whole, at peace. Her journey through the cave had not just brought her closer to the song. It had reminded her of something deeper. That every heart, no matter how quiet or far away, carries a piece of that ancient music. All we have to do is listen. And now, dear dreamer, as Mira's song fades softly into the wind, the sleepy cloud whispers you good night. Let the echoes of her journey stay with you, the calm of stone, the rhythm of water, the kindness of wind. Perhaps if you listen closely enough, you'll hear the same song in your own heart tonight, the quiet melody that belongs to everyone, the song that never ends. So breathe deeply. Feel the gentle hum of the world around you, and drift peacefully into dreams where songs beneath the stone still softly sing.